Each morning, real setups are broken down with entry strategies and technical reasoning behind every trade. This is today's best trade setups with Verified Investing.
The stock market had quite a significant sell-off on Friday. AVGO dropped as much as 11 to 12%. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's best trade setups. My name is Benjamin Poole, head trader here at Verified Investing. I'm going to cover a couple different stocks for you today. If I have time, Baidu was one of the comments earlier this morning that I'm going to try to go over if we have some time setups. We did have, like I mentioned, had a good sell-off early or pretty much all day on Friday based on AVGO's earnings report. Initially, it had a nice surge to the upside, and then it decided it wanted to continue to sell off, and sell off it did. I did have a key support level that I had mentioned that I was going to go long on that play, but on a 15-minute closing basis, I would stop out because it was likely to flush, and it got down to around $355 yesterday. It's actually trading about flat on the day. So let's just go ahead and go into a couple charts. First chart I'm going to go over though is the SMH. We've been monitoring this for quite some time. I had a couple different short levels. The first short level was $374.10. Second short level was $385. This first shortable level was the level that the SMH ended up getting rejected from. So for me today, my long play would be $340.01. So if the SMH or the Van Eck Semiconductor ETF wants to continue to sell off, this is going to be your first level of support, $340.01. This is a pretty nice gap fill in the charts. From the previous all-time highs that it just recently made, that's about a 10% or 9.5% fall. And so, which means that there are likely to be a lot of buyers who are going to step up and really bid this to the upside. Unity Software is another stock we've been monitoring for some time. Here's a couple different levels I'm going to show you. The first one is $55.55 with the second shortable level at $58.40. So now I'm going to go ahead and zoom out of the charts real quick and show you where price action is currently sitting. It's sitting at $46.45. So Unity Software actually has another 17 or 18% move to the upside in order for us to get to this level. If it continues to sell off, your first support level is going to be right here at $43.12. All right, let's go ahead and go into Oracle. We've been covering this for some time. I've got a couple different levels. I'm going to zoom out on the charts real quick for you guys. The first level of support is going to be $185.63, which is a low pivot. Secondary pivot top is going to be $181.52, and then you have this gap fill at $176.38. So let me go ahead and zoom in for you so I can show you what I'm talking about. So here's this low pivot. On Oracle, it had a massive sell-off from the last earnings and then this previous earnings, and it continued to sell off. $185.67 is more of an aggressive level. And I mentioned $181.52. That was that secondary pivot top. And then this is the gap fill at $176.38. So these should be some pretty good support levels. If this first long level decides it wants to fail, then you're going to get a decent flush out. So this would be my additional support levels for me to pick up. This would be more of a day trade unless we can bust back into this gap fill right here at $176 because it's already kissed this initial support level several times, which means that this is becoming weaker and weaker support, and price action is likely to head lower. So for me, now that I'm out of my swing trade on ORCL, $176.38 is my next swing trade level. If it fails to hold this level, you're going to come much, much lower, probably getting back down to this gap fill around $155. All right, let's go ahead and jump into AVGO. AVGO, I have a couple different long levels, $349.83. $340.20, and then long level at $329.80. So this $349 isn't just some arbitrary number. I'm going to actually show you how I got this long level at $349.83. I got to zoom out in the charts. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this pivot low right here. Take this trend line tool, connect this pivot low to this secondary pivot, and look at this. This, not only did it break down below these support levels right here, but this would be a third hit of an upsloping trend line at $349.83, which is why I like this for a long play. Not only that, but a little bit lower than that, you have this gap in the charts right here. And off of this sell-off, this would be a pretty good sell-off. You're looking at a down move of 18% on AVGO. If price action does break below that, my next level is $329.80. Really, I'm just looking at a pierce of $330 for a long level. Now let's go to my long play that I had given on Friday. So I was mentioning that this $370.65, you had this low pivot here, and I expected a bounce off of this level if we could get there. Now what happened was it kissed this level, consolidated right at it, broke below it, finally recaptured it. This is where I thought price action was going to retake the 375 and could head back up to 380, but that didn't happen. Fortunately, I had given you the stop out on a 15-minute closing basis to get out of this trade, and look at what happened. It ended up trading as low as $355. On the upside, this $370 level and 65 cents is going to be a nice shortable level. However, let's go back and zoom out. If price action does end up continuing a little bit higher, I'm looking at $380.25. I know that first level at 370, this low pivot, would be a good level. However, I'm going to be a little bit more conservative and wait for another push to the upside around $380. All right, GEV was another stock that we were monitoring. It did break this low pivot and it closed below. I did anticipate another move to the downside. If we get another sell-off today, I'm looking at this $650.17 level for a long play. If price action decides it wants to continue this massive drive to the upside, I'm looking at a shortable level at this gap fill at $704.20 with a second and third level. Second level is $723, and then my third level is $731. So these will be key resistance levels if it gets above here. So on a 15-minute closing basis, if it decides it wants to push above $704.20, this is where I'd stop out and then look to re-enter it if it heads up to the 723 level, and then add all the way up to 731. Could end up going up to 750. So keep that in mind if it does end up closing above this 731 on a 15-minute closing basis. All right, Goldman Sachs was another stock that we were monitoring. I have these two upsloping trend lines. The first upsloping trend line that I have was from the 17th of July, secondary pivot here, third hit here on the 18th of February, 2025. And look at what happened. I mentioned that you have two upsloping converging trend lines, which means that price action is likely to get rejected from this level. And then we had this sell-off. I will say that just because we got this sell-off doesn't necessarily mean that it's a done deal. This is definitely heading lower, because we had a whole sell-off in the entire market. The S&P 500 was down, the QQQ was down. So this could be just a lucky hit. However, if it continues to sell off, you have some support levels right about the $800 level. If it wants to continue to push higher, you can expect a little bit of a pierce and then more of a substantial pullback. I do signal, or this does signal for me at least, that the top is in for Goldman Sachs. And so look for a continued pullback, even if the markets do decide they want to continue to rise. All right, the next one is NOW. This is more of a day trade level. Couple different things I'm noticing in the charts. You've got this down-sloping trend line that connects the highs from the 28th of January, 2025. Here was a second hit, and here was a third hit. The third hit was in 30th of October. We're in a downtrend on NOW. We've also monitoring this upsloping trend line that connects the April lows to the second and third pivots right here from the November lows and the December lows. If price action gets down to $806.64, this is a good day trade long level, knowing that it could head all the way back down to this gap fill right here at $766.83. All right, we have a little bit more time. Baidu is another chart that I'm looking at. It is actually in a downtrend. What I've noticed is you've got a pivot high and a low, and a lower high and a lower low and a lower high. And so I anticipate it actually continuing to break down. So here are my support levels for Baidu. So again, here's a pivot high, a pivot low. Here's a lower high and a lower low. So, and then it created another lower high. So if price action decides it wants to get below $118.60, $1.59. Then it's going to hit this upswing trend line. If it busts through that and gets below $108, you're coming down to this gap fill at $101.96. So on a swing trade basis, if you're long Baidu, what you're looking for is to take out this high pivot point right here at $131. Again, Baidu right now is currently in a downtrend, and so you're looking at additional support levels that to hold to keep this upward momentum going. But again, if it breaks these levels, you're going to go much, much lower on Baidu. All right. We have a commercial for you for Wrecked and Rich. We'd had a first episode on Tuesday. Hopefully you guys get a lot out of this. And thank you guys so much for joining me at 8:45 this morning. Gareth Soloway is going to be going live in less than 5 minutes. He's going to be talking about the massive sell-off and what the rate cuts could potentially mean for quantitative easing going forward in the stock market. So that's what I have. And if you guys are getting something out of this, please make sure you're liking, following, subscribing, and sharing with your friends so that way they can get these market setups as well. And with that said, we'll see you guys next time in the charts. You guys have a great rest of your day. Take care.
Welcome to Crypto Combat, Wrecked or Rich.
Last episode, the markets didn't just move, they hit back.
I am short LUNA2 USD.
I'm going to short Ethereum at $3,300, 150x leverage.
Guys, I've already shorted Polkadot here. I've done 2 shorts already.
With 45 minutes on the clock, the pros went full throttle.
Okay, I'm out over $660 on that one trade. Love it.
Ben landed the fastest profit in show history.
It's okay. I'm not worried. I mean, I'm only out of the money $323. I just need to pull back here on Ethereum and we'll be good to go.
This is still strong. It's out of the money about $460 right now.
I need more time.
But Gareth, he went all in and nearly all out.
Okay, one of these trend lines has to work. And I'll delete the trend line, so you won't even know.
As the charts heated up, so did the trash talk.
It's gonna come down. It's gonna hit my level. Dude, give me 5 more minutes.
All right, give us the final tally, folks. It looks like you're hanging on. Close those trades. I see those eyes. Close those trades.
And when the final seconds ticked away, everything came down to the wire. New trades, new chaos, new wreckage. Next episode, Gareth joins again. Join us Tuesday at 11:30 a.m. only on Crypto Combat, Wrecked or Rich.